Hello and welcome to the formal review. Today, we will be looking at the 2020 film, Bad Boys for Life. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the review.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the formal review. This is the first episode of season 3, and I thank you all for joining me again for this brand new season. Last year was a very, very long year for me, and I had a lot going on and just really couldn't put out as much as good quality reviews on time. But as we head into the new season, I am working towards improving the podcast and also making it more fun and enjoyable for you all. I also will be changing a few things moving forward. One thing that you may have noticed is the 40X in the title. I've been slowly seeing more films in this format, and if you've never heard of 40X, it is essentially similar to those rides at theme parks that you watch a movie during a ride. They do cost a little bit more than a normal screening, but if you are willing, some films are really worth the extra $7 to $8. If done correctly, it can really add to the movie-going experience. However, there are films where it is not needed. I will be letting you know in my reviews my opinion is for this specific film. I will also be changing my reviews to not giving a rating anymore, and rather only just giving my recommendation. These changes are happening because there's going to be a bigger change coming later this year that I'm working on. Anyway, before I get started on the film, I do want to preface this episode with a slight spoiler warning for the film. As always, I will do my best not to completely ruin the movie for you, but as I always say, I do suggest you to go see the film before you hear what I have to say about it, so you fully understand everything. But if you do not care about that, keep listening. So what better way to start off season 3 is with the third film in the franchise. Bad Boys for Life is an action comedy film starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and co-stars Vanessa Hudgens, Alexander Ludwig, Charles Melton, Paolo Nunez, Kate Del Castillo, Nicky Jam, and Joe Pantoliano. It is a sequel to 1995's Bad Boys and 2003's Bad Boys 2, and follows detectives Mike Lowry, played by Smith, and Marcus Bennett, played by Lawrence, coming back together when someone starts killing off people who were involved with an old case of Mike's. As I always do, I rewatched the prior two films before heading into this one, and it's really crazy to me that the first film came out 25 years ago. Rewatching these films prior to seeing this film really did show how action movies had changed, though the Michael Bay-isms that everyone makes fun of in Transformers movies are clearly evident in both of these films. Having said that, I do love them both. Each film has some really great scenes and shows some really good chemistry between the two starring actors, and people say these are not good films. I mean, they aren't great by any means, but they're still very enjoyable as over-the-top action films, so I have a lot of love for these films, and I was pretty excited going into this one. However, I did not have high expectations for it. Coming out of it, I honestly was pleasantly surprised. Michael Bay was replaced by these Belgian directors, Adil El Arbi and Bilal Falal. Apologies if I'm pronouncing those names wrong. They take a lot of the loud and incoherent aspects of a Michael Bay film. And this is not to say, though, that Michael Bay is completely removed from this movie, both from its action, its story, and his physical self. This honestly may have been done to appease the fans of the prior films, which for the most part they do a good job at. The action is fun, especially in 40X, and the directors are able to move between some really good comedy and drama. They know how they want their story to go, and they execute that fairly coherently while injecting the humor. The film definitely feels that it was written a lot better. One of the main parts of what made the last two films enjoyable is the chemistry from the two main actors. However, some would say that that is the only thing that is enjoyable. I am not one of those people, but I digress. The story does have an overlying arch that does give more depth into one of the film's main characters, and the script does give more layers to the overall film. The film is able to touch on messages of family and getting older to where you can't do things as well as you used to. For a film in a franchise that is mostly known for over-the-top action, this is pretty deep, and fans of the series are gonna find a few Easter eggs hidden throughout, and some of which are really great and services the fan as well. At the end of the day, though, the thing that matters is the chemistry between Smith and Lawrence. If this was not as good as the prior two films, this film probably wouldn't have done as well as it did. And boy, Smith and Lawrence are as funny as ever. It's really impressive to see how these men flawlessly become these two characters again and actually give more emotion than their characters have ever been before. Lawrence's Marcus is a new grandfather, and he's going to retire and ride on off into the sunset. Smith's detective Mike is still a player and does not want to slow down or really settle down. And this film starts off showing them still being brothers, though having different life views, which is what the prior films established as well. Where this film differs itself from those two films is how it takes these two men. While these characters have been pushed to the limits before and joke about hating each other, anytime this was done previously, they had the following scene to rebound and then become brothers again. So those moments didn't really feel earnest. And I didn't ever feel like they had been pushed to break up before, which happens essentially in this movie. And there's a specific scene.
Voting isn't just going to the polls anymore on Election Day. Options like early voting, mail-in voting, and ballot drop boxes are available to more voters and are growing in popularity. How to Vote is a tool created by Democracy Works, and it breaks down the options your state offers by forecasting a ballot, empowering you to decide where and when to vote. Democracy works best when we all vote, but misinformation and confusion about election procedures have resulted in low voter turnout. How to Vote takes the guesswork out of the voting process. It is easy to use and helps folks from all over the country overcome many of the process barriers to voting. It is committed to helping you vote no matter what. You can use the How to Vote tool to sign up for election reminders, see what's on your ballot, get step-by-step assistance requesting your mail ballot, explore your options for returning your mail-in ballot, check your voter registration status, and find your local polling site, and make sure that you have an appropriate ID to bring with you. Decide when and where you'll vote this year at howto.vote.
Where Mike calls out Marcus for not being loyal to him and helping him out, but then Marcus claps back with how much he was there for him in the hospital when Mike was unconscious. And the audience can really feel the brotherhood between these two men being severed. And another thing that this film definitely has better than the prior two films is its villain. Prior two films' villains are fairly cliche and replaceable. They do bad things for money and drugs. That's pretty much their only motive. This film's villain is played absolutely menacingly by Del Castillo, is connected to the heroes in some way, and gives a reason for her to doing the things that she does, which makes her a lot more compelling. Her actions give her more stake to the film's story in comparison to the other two villains, who are just the person who the two men had to take down. And then there's this other antagonist played by Jacob Scipio, I think is how you pronounce his name, and he seems to do the things that he does for personal reasons. He's really coming for Mike and Marcus's throats, and having several cast members return, like Panto Liano as Captain Howard, back as their screaming police chief, is just as funny as he has ever been. And I think having other small characters such as Teresa Randall returning as Marcus's wife really shows that the filmmakers cared about their fans. I do say that the plot does have one or two far-fetched storytelling coincidences and conveniences, though they do support some of the thematic and emotional way of the film. It is a fairly cluttered with a lot of things going on, and is fairly predictable at times. They are explaining a lot of things that were never touched on before, mainly because Michael Bay didn't really care about his characters' backstories. The film has a lot of dialogue at the time, and sometimes can feel as chaotic as Michael Bay's films. The logic behind a few scenes is minimal at best, and sometimes things only appear in the scene to move along the story. One scene that really does not make sense to me is when Mike steps out of a wheelchair, and I know what this movie's trying to do, but he walks out without any effort, like there was actually no need for the wheelchair in the first place, which doesn't make sense, because if he actually did this, he'd actually be limping a little, but no, he's completely fine now, and well, maybe I'm expecting too much logic out of a Bad Boys film. Anyway, another flaw is that aside from the heroes and villains of the story, the rest of the characters are fairly replaceable and are on the same level as the prior two villains. They kind of exist. The film may not have as many memorable scenes as prior two films, such as the one with Reggie, but from a story aspect, this film is definitely better. This film has a desire to give an audience an emotional tie for Mike and Marcus, and with that, it does succeed. It is not the typical romantic way that you expect from a buddy cop film, but in a sincere way that is completely different from Michael Bay's films, which did not really have anything of the sort. Both stars are great, and if this film was the last one, I would be happy. However, apparently that's not the case. This does make the title sort of dumb, aside from allowing Will Smith to say Bad Boys for Life a lot in this film. We'll see. But anyway, I'd recommend this film for anyone who likes an action film, and if you are a fan of the prior two films. I think 40X was a lot of fun and added to the action scenes very well. I'd suggest that over the normal screening if you are in the mood for a really good time filled with great action. So now, what do you think of the film? Let me know. Hit me up on social media. The Formal Review is on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The URL is all the same. It's at The Formal Review. Thank you all for tuning in once again, and I really appreciate you all listening. I see the numbers, and I'm really thankful for you all. So you never miss an episode, please subscribe subscribe to your favorite streaming service. The Formal Review is on Spotify, iTunes, Google Music, and much, much more. Pretty much anywhere that has podcasts. In addition, I always want to grow and improve, so please leave a review on your favorite service. And also, you can tell me what you want to hear or a film that you want me to review. I do this for you all, and I want to keep it entertaining. Each pair of ears that you give to the podcast allows me to continue. For those who have supported me on a financial basis, I really appreciate the fact that you support me in that way. For those who want to give financial support, please go to anchor.fm/the_formal_review and click support this podcast. And any donation is really appreciated. As with every episode, I do have music in the background. I do not own the rights to this music, but I put it in there to show support to the film's score. This is a very important part of the film and can really bring the audience back into the film's environment. This episode's music was from the Bad Boys for Life original motion picture score composed by Lauren Balfe, released by Sony Classical on January 20th, 2020. Thank you all for tuning in once again, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies. Take care,
Thanks
everyone.
for tuning into this episode of The Formal Review. We hope you'll join us again.